Hey everyone, Andrew Reiner here. We are dissecting, reviewing, spoiling the hell out of the first episode of The Mandalorian, which is on Disney+. It's a new live-action Star Wars TV series, very much in the vein of the original trilogy, the classic films from the 70s. I got Matt Miller here.
Hello.
Daniel Tack.
It's good to be here.
And Jeff Cork.
Hi.
Hello. We all watched it and had different takes on it. Different levels of excitement. I'm going to say you would assume I would be the one that liked it the most, being I pretty much bleed blue milk. I am Mr. Star Wars here, right? But I'm going to say it was Jeff Cork.
I love it. I think it's so good.
He raved about this like you wouldn't believe. We even did a high-flying, high five, Milli Vanilli style over this.
And Mr. Grumpus next to me is just poo-pooing the whole thing.
I said it was good. I actually think it was good. There are levels of...
Every time we said something nice about it, Tack started throwing shade.
I said it was good. I just didn't go to the levels of, I'm not worshiping it on the altar of Star Wars or anything. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Miller, where are you? We've already just revealed our hand here. Where are you on this here?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
I think that it's a good first step.
See?
Okay.
I'm not the only one.
Have you ever heard me say something that brief about a piece of fiction?
Oh, I like it. it's succinct.
I think it's.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah. It's good.
You won't.
But it's because you won't. I think that it's very hard to pass judgment on what it is right now as that first episode, because this is the episode it's the establishing episode.
Right.
What the series is about doesn't make itself apparent until the last 30 seconds of the episode.
And we don't even know that for sure.
I think it's a pretty safe assumption that that's going to be the conceit of at least the first season. Yeah.
Miller, what is a Mandalorian?
Well, he's like part of a warrior caste / race of people, right? Like, I mean, I think within the now established new canon, it's different from what the broader, I don't think we can include like Star Wars, the Old Republic stuff in there, can we? I mean, that's all considered
It's
a little bit outside
the expanded universe that's kind of long gone.
Yeah, and so instead here this is going to be our time to really dig down deep. We had a little bit of it in Clone Wars and Rebels with there were some kind of competing factions of the Mandalorian people. But it's safe to say that at this point in the storyline, they are a somewhat beleaguered group that is still clinging tight to these old ideals of warrior honor.
Yeah, and
that they are known for.
More importantly, they're the coolest looking troopers in the entire universe, right?
As popularized by Boba Fett.
And then Jango Fett from
Right,
from
but they're
the
not
prequels.
even Mandalorians.
Right, they're wearing the armor.
Right.
Let's talk about the opening shot here. Jeff Cork, you had some really astute impressions of that I think really kind of framed what this show is about and kind of its flow.
What did I say? I don't remember. I don't remember that.
So it was Western-esque.
Oh yeah, it's totally like it's like absolutely a Western. There's no question about it. Yes.
And I mean, it's even like the doors flipping open. You have the Mandalorian
The
standing
saloon
there.
door opening like an iris, as you do in a Western.
And
Real quick, like it had the establishing shot too. You've got like the Star Wars like jazz music equivalent of like a spaghetti Western theme.
Yeah.
So like the instrumentation is kind of weird, but you could tell that's the vibe they're going for.
Yeah.
Which is very fun.
I mean, the whole thing is structured, that whole first episode is structured to set up the dynamic of a kind of a classic Western so that when we get to the final shot, we're made to question, is that what it's going to remain? Or are we kind of shooting off in a new direction here? It makes the first episode in a lot of ways. I think the thing that people will call out as its biggest flaw is it's not super original. I mean, that whole first episode, with the exception of the fact that we're translating the Western vibe into a Star Wars setting, there's nothing about the way that the characters interact or about the dynamics of what they're doing that feels especially fresh. But I think that that's purposeful. I think that that's to establish a tone so that for the rest of the series, they can play with that tone and do weird things with it.
I think the tone really works for the story they're trying to tell, at least what we know of it, right? Like, It
I mean,
really
we don't know the story they're trying to tell
it's
yet.
gritty. It's about this bounty hunter who's tracking targets, and he ends up stumbling upon something crazy. We could just go into that, right?
Yeah.
We're assuming everybody out there that's watching has or watching this has watched the show.
Turn it off if you haven't. Go watch it.
But the big target at the end is this sphere that he finds, and you're like, what is this? What's going to be inside? And it turns out it is a space crib
Yep.
for babies, and
Yeah.
inside is the craziest thing possible for Star Wars fans is a baby Yoda,
Right.
which has kind of been off limits in the canon, right? Like no writers have been able to talk about Yoda's species. George Lucas just kind of shut all that down when he was running Lucasfilm. There was Yaddle, right? Who was in the prequels, similar species. We didn't know for
Right.
sure, but a lot of that you don't see other writers. They could talk about Yoda,
Right.
but nothing about his past, where he's from.
Yeah.
Now we see a second one that's very clearly his species.
Yeah, which begs, of course, lots of questions about if there is only one other individual we've seen of this species, and that individual has, within the canon, has recently died. Like, where is this new character come from? Is there
Was Yoda,
You never know, right? Like,
The obvious inference is that Yoda and Yaddle, the Yoda and Yaddle child, unless we assume that there's a whole race
say
involved
that
here.
5 times fast.
I would assume that there's a whole race of them.
We can, but they've never been explored.
It
right?
hasn't.
So,
So this is new territory, which
Right.
is for the franchise faithful. If you strip away all the other kind of Western vibe and that kind of thing, that's the thing. That's the big sort of worm on the hook, so to speak, here, right?
But like until we saw this episode, though, correct me if I'm wrong. We've never seen more salacious crumbs, but now we saw several of them
That's
like
true.
being roasted on a spit and sold for
poor
food.
salacious. I actually felt bad for that little annoying
Yeah.
creep.
we don't know if
Kowakians.
it's him or not.
Yeah, Kowakians. That's the
for
name
all,
of the species.
for all we know, there's like a
Little
whole
monkey
planet
lizards.
where they're selling Yodas as street food. We just have not had the chance to go
Yoda
there
on a
yet.
stick. Why
Yeah.
not?
I mean, yeah, but come on, it's a bigger stretch to say that there are more Yoda species than there are of some freaking rat creature like in Jabba's. But he's not really explored. Like,
For all Star Wars fans to see that, I mean, that's a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Because you knew George Lucas was very explicit, like didn't want that territory explored. But Dave Filoni, who directed this episode, and writer Jon Favreau, who's the showrunner, were kind of given the keys to the kingdom by Lucas to explore this, and Disney.
Yeah.
Let's open this book and see what's inside here. Who knows what happens? Maybe that little egg will go fly off into space and we'll never see it again in episode 2.
I mean, I will tell you the thing that would make me the most sad about where the series is going is if it adopted a kind of like bounty of the week approach, where like the first couple minutes of the next episode sort of dismissed all of that and we just moved on. Which, by the way, they're not going to do. I guarantee you they're not going to do that. But that would be, I think, really disappointing. I think this should be the event that establishes what the rest of the story is about. The decision that he makes to, take out a fellow bounty hunter on the hunt.
One that is very clearly equipped with a thermal detonator.
Yeah,
and
right.
has some kind
Very
of self-destruction
he only
sequence
says it
ready.
about 30 times.
That decision, and then presumably the decisions that will follow that involve protecting this baby. I think it's safe to presume that the rest of the series is going to be the fallout of that, right? Like, what does that mean for this guy who's lived this life of being the lone bounty hunter and being the badass that he is, and he finally has this sort of moment of humanity that takes him down a new path. That would be my best guess,
Right.
right?
So that's definitely
Very the professional, maybe.
yeah.
right?
It's Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
it's Lone Wolf and
absolutely
Cub.
Again, these are very established tropes, and there's I don't think there's anything wrong with following good tropey storytelling if you do it well. But I certainly think that what we saw in the first episode was very, very driven by like, this is kind of a classic Western storytelling device.
Right. Tack, you didn't like the ending. When I first talked to you, you were just like, you spit fire in my direction.
Well, first because to set it up, I think we are going to see Bounty Hunter of the Week, but it's going to be him protecting the Yoda from other bounty hunters. I think that's going to be the whole first season. That's just my guess right now. There's no way they're going to because of. Yes, I didn't like it because now we have from my perspective is we have what this whole season is going to be about is him protecting this little Yoda, and I wanted to see more bounty hunter. I wanted to see more bounty hunting. and it's going to be reverse bounty hunting instead. From what I'm gathering, my take on it right now, I could be wrong. You can throw this back in my face in 6 weeks.
To your point, we did see the full operation, which I loved about this first episode, is how he operates. He had the fob, his tracking device.
The pucks.
He put the puck down, showing the target, and then for the longest time, he's not talking. You're like, this is a little weird. They're trying to establish him as this ultimate badass. But then you see the inside of his ship is equipped for various bounty hunting needs with a nice little carbon freezing chamber.
It's super handy. Like you go to the Empire for that kind of stuff before, He's got it right there.
Yeah.
They've really made some upgrades.
You needed a whole room on Cloud City.
You did.
I'll tell you, my favorite thing about this episode is is the way they structure it to establish the character, to establish the protagonist, given that the protagonist is this sort of man of few words, mostly silent character.
It was too much.
I agree that it was a bit much. And
he was like Jason Voorhees, like an exact moment where he just appeared behind someone magically.
Right. And
didn't say anything.
Admittedly, if the rest of the series were to go that way, it would be a big problem. However, again, I think this is a first where this is like an establishing shot, a 45-minute establishing shot of like this universe and this character. And in that situation, I was okay with it. But I really liked the idea of establishing who that character was by bouncing them against other individual characters, like these sort of vignettes. If you think about the structure of the episode, everything is like, first it's him with his bounty target, right? And that's the character that we're learning about the Mandalorian by how he treats his bounty target. And then it's the Carl Weathers character. Then it's the Werner Herzog character.
Yeah, the Carl Weathers character, Grief Karga, was kind of the head of the Bounty Hunter Guild, right? So you kind of saw that layer of how this all works too, which I thought was really cool, right?
Yep. And you get that. You then get the Imperial perspective with the Werner Herzog character, and then the Nick Nolte character, who was kind of my favorite. I really like the Ugnaught, like that whole I've spoken
moisture
thing.
farmer, yeah.
And then finally the droid. Like the entire episode is built to give us a perspective. And I forgot the Smith, the Mandalorian Smith. Like the whole episode is built around giving us insight into who this guy is without him ever being able to express himself because he has a helmet on and he doesn't talk about much. And I thought that was cool. It reminded me a lot of there's a similar structure at play in the recent Blade Runner movie where everything is about these little individual vignettes where the main character is interacting with one individual who's in that society. And then we move on to the next one, and it gives us a glimpse of the world.
There was 2 times I was reminded of video games watching this, and it was when the Mandalorian's right at the beginning, he didn't say anything. I was like, hey, people of TV, this is what the silent protagonist is. I've dealt with this like my whole life. And then the second one was just the amount of currency. There's more currency in this show, this one episode, than all of Star Wars Battlefront 2.
You have the premium currency that you can use to buy equipment.
So apologies to DICE and EA. That was actually like them adhering to Star Wars fiction. I didn't realize that there's just way too many kinds of currency. I didn't understand all of it.
Yeah, we actually like it now.
Oh, yeah. It's way
Take
better.
our credits.
The Mandalorian, one of the currencies he gets is this special kind of metal. And he brings that back and has that forged into armor.
Yes.
So what did you guys think of that?
This was pauldrons. I'm assuming during the course of this first season he will assemble a full suit of Mandalorian armor through his exploits.
It's very gamey too.
Yes.
Very gamey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are kind of gamey about this, and I think it's what might turn off certain people who aren't us, who are watching us. I think they're people who are going to feel that feels artificial a little bit. But I like the implication there that we're going to learn about the Mandalorian culture a little bit, and that there is this idea that the warrior forges his armor through his own actions. I also think, by the way, the armor thing is the biggest hint of the background that we're going to get into here, right? I mean, I think the implication here is that by working with the Empire here, he's not only uncomfortable with that because the Empire is in rough straits right now. I think we're also kind of meant to understand that it's the Empire that killed his family, right?
Yeah, what we saw there was maybe a flashback scene to the Jedi Purge.
Or it could have
what
been
it looked like.
Yes, but it could have also been like that there was a purge of like the Mandalorians
It could
by
be
the
too.
Empire
Yeah.
that hasn't been talked about in this new canon, and that's kind of it's sort of a red herring by using the word purge. That they're making that in Star Wars fans' minds makes you think of the Jedi Purge, but it could have just as easily been that Palpatine was not comfortable with the idea of these like honor-bound Mandalorian warriors running around, and that he ordered them to get taken out. And so by him, and the hint there, by the way, I think, is the idea that he gets this piece of armor that's imprinted. You know, that's the stuff that was melted down
Right.
when they purged his family. Right? That's where this stuff comes from.
Now, as he's in the Mandalorian base, whatever, the little hideout,
Yeah.
In the background, people, eagle-eyed Star Wars fans have seen that Boba Fett's armor is back there. Even in seeing it in 4K or whatever, the ding in the helmet is the same. This is roughly 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so he's still has another 995 days to die in the Sarlacc pit, right?
Well, he gets out, right? Or is that's EU, right?
Yeah,
He's
but then
technically not
in
escaped.
an aftermath novel, his armor was found or whatever. So I'm guessing that they might just kind of say this didn't. It might be an Easter egg,
Yeah.
just for fans to see. But there is a chance he could be explored in this.
So there's no way they don't, right?
Oh, I
you
think there
don't-
is. I think there
you
is.
do not make things called a series like this, which is not really based on the character, but it really is. Like, I mean, the whole idea of the Mandalorian concept came from him as what was a one-note character that got expanded into this crazy thing just because he was so cool and a
he's-
silent badass.
And that weird tuning fork gun that he's got from the Christmas special. And they talk about the light day thing, which
Yeah,
is like what
Christmas special.
from the Christmas special. It's a very strange pull.
Yeah, they really like the Christmas special.
Yeah.
They're going to make that canon whether you like it or
God.
not.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about the big reveals. Let's talk about the best part of the episode. And we've lightly touched on the droid a bit. IG-11.
Which was the best part of the episode.
Yeah, I did like the grapple hook to the door to cut off a guy's legs. That was pretty slick.
Yeah.
But IG-11, Jeff,
It was great. I like that character design has always been super interesting.
yeah, like how does that work?
Had the action figure. I mean, like Shadows of the Empire, you fought him in that
Yeah.
trash place or whatever, and then to see how everything works is like the final like realization of why he has those weird array of eyes that are just constantly swiveling around, and the way he moves. Like at one point near the end, you see him like walking over a body, and his legs kind of flip forward.
Yeah.
It's just he's very interesting to look at.
Yeah.
From an action perspective, spinning around using
Yeah.
all the eyes to just take down a bunch of Nyctos, like that was amazing.
Yeah.
But also, I thought the humor really landed well there with the thermal detonator.
Yeah.
And we finally really got a lot of the Mandalorian talking,
Yeah.
right? And I liked seeing that they're not afraid
Slowly opening that door.
Yeah, and I hope that continues as we move forward. I do not want him being the silent badass standing in a
Yeah.
doorway, not entering it.
That's the biggest pitfall this series could fall into from here, I think, is like in an effort to overly appease the crowd who wants that, who wants this sort of like, I don't want him to speak, I just want him to go around and shoot people. Like that's not gonna work. Like for a whole series, it's just not gonna fly. And
Especially when the ostensible side character also cannot speak because it's a
Yeah.
baby.
Right, exactly. So I hope that this establishing episode, having him be that way, is so that it becomes more and more meaningful as he sort of opens up over the course of the rest of the series.
I think they did a good job showcasing, not emotionally this way, but like his vulnerability when he's like scouting out at the beginning and he's attacked by that monster, just completely takes him by surprise,
Yep.
and he's pinned underneath it. So like up until that point, you think, oh, here's another flawless Star Wars badass
Yeah.
who can't be surprised or anything. I'm starting to think this show isn't for you, Dan Tam.
I said it was good. I liked it. I'm talking about all these things I like,
Yeah.
but that I did not like actually.
Yeah?
I thought that was out of character for like a super seasoned assassin bounty hunter guy to get jumped by some, muck creature from a desert planet.
It's called a blurg.
A blurg. That's perfect.
Yeah. With two
Darth
R's.
Icky.
Two R's.
Yeah, a blurg. God, okay. So yeah, I thought he's not going to get ambushed by that thing. Come
But
on.
he did.
I know he did.
He did. He got ambushed and he was
And then
pinned
the whole scene.
underneath
Then
it.
the whole
and
scene
guy
where he
saved
like
him.
had to tame it to ride it. I thought it was ridiculous.
That's a classic Western thing, though.
I
You could
like
be
the-
like, you could say like, I don't like that. That's fine, but I mean, like, it is undeniably part of the Western genre. Is like,
Yeah.
you look at like Bill Money from Unforgiven, for instance, Clint
Yeah.
Eastwood's character is like, that's a whole sequence of this clumsy guy who can barely ride a horse, and
It makes the times that he in that genre, it makes the times that the hero does experience triumph feel more meaningful.
Yeah.
That's why it works. Is that like when you have the flawless character, I think it works better almost as a side character, right? Like Boba Fett, for
Exactly.
instance, right? Is a character who seems he's a bit part, but like up until his death, he's this sort of like untouchable, right? And then he just does this stupid thing at the end.
just a series of pratfalls.
Yeah.
I get it, him having trials. Like,
Yeah.
I get it when they have the shootout. Yeah, he's definitely strapped there and has to use everything at his disposal to win, which is great. I can see it in that scenario. That makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me to get ambushed by a blurg. That's all.
I agree with Jeff. It is a spaghetti western trope. I hope in that breath, I hope that they don't overdo it though.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of just kind of callbacks to those old films in this one. And I think that is to make us understand the tone of this, right?
Yeah.
I hope they do go more sci-fi, Star Wars, explore new territory. And speaking of, we don't even know what planet they're on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Tatooine-ish.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's striking as a Star Wars fan is how little you know about that, and I think I think it's purposeful.
Yeah.
I think that it's a statement by the filmmakers of saying like, you know what, stop paying attention to that BS. In this instance,
Because
that's
we've only
not
got
what this
4
is.
planets.
That's not what this is about,
Yeah.
right? It's not. This isn't about like creating some dictionary of each of the planets or whatever. This is about this character and his journey, and a focus on that, and the kind of this planet or that planet is largely superfluous to that story.
And one thing about that real quick, like one of the things I did like a lot is that it does feel like the original trilogy in
Yes.
in character
Yeah, I
and
wanna-
scope and all that stuff.
I want to ask you guys about the production values. There was some concern going into this that the Star Wars films are very expensive. You need a lot of special effects and all that, practical effects, big sets. How do you think those paid off? We'll start with you, Jeff.
I thought it looked great. I mean, we're at a point too where even your run-of-the-mill Netflix original looks great. So, like, if with the weight of Disney and their marquee show for Disney Plus, if they can't deliver on a Star Wars thing, they have no business charging people to see it. I thought it looked fine. I mean, there's some wonky stuff where you're like, when he's riding the blarg or whatever, you're like, all right, that's CG or whatever.
Yeah, at least they pulled the camera back, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like Anakin riding that bug in the field when he
Yeah.
was falling in love,
Yeah.
right? Miller?
Yeah, I thought it looked good. I mean, they're spending a lot of money on this show, and I would expect, and I think they need to. I think in order to make one of the reasons that we haven't had a live action Star Wars TV show is that it is just really expensive to do well enough that that it's believable and isn't just going to make people laugh out loud at the stupid aliens and the dumb laser blasts and all that kind of stuff. And I think they've put in the money that they need to do here to make it look good. I think the only effect thing that I took issue with, and Reiner, you and I talked about this a little bit, is maybe it's not so much like a special effect as it might even be like an acting or directing choice, which is like, I think the whole posture and movement of the main character is a little weird right now.
Yeah, when he was going down the stairs when
Yeah.
they were establishing him as a badass, you could tell the actor's like, I can't see through this thing. I don't know where these steps are.
Yes.
They're curving.
Yep.
So he kind of struggled. I was laughing out loud
Yep.
because it's like, that's got to suck.
Yeah, and so like I said, not totally an effects thing, but something about the universe. Like I think to maintain the illusion of this like badass who's in a. Let's be honest, if that was a real helmet, that's a terrible design for a bounty hunter.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't see anything in there, but you have to maintain the illusion that somehow it gives you a great view of the action.
No, it doesn't, because you get ambushed by a blarg.
Yeah, right.
We've established that. It's the helmet's fault.
That's right.
It all
Can't
lines
hear
up.
anything. Can't see anything.
Yeah.
But you look really good.
You look really
Yeah.
good when you do it.
All right,
Real quick, as far as effects go, I think the show has an advantage because we're dealing with smaller scale occurrences here, and we won't. I mean, ostensibly, we will not be having any like executor class star
We're
destroyers.
not going to go to Coruscant.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we won't have any of
I don't
that,
know.
so they can focus on. I mean,
True.
I can't. It could happen, but I can't see where we fight. A star destroyer with our little bounty hunter rig.
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about special effects, but I think in some cases, things like the shot of the ice monster, like that's a brief shot, but it's really good.
Very brief.
That's a
think these
Ravenak,
days,
by the way.
I think these days that's almost harder than doing a giant ass space battle, right? Like because you have it's close up. There's individuals moving, right? It's not just spaceships that are shooting stuff in space with hard metal. It's like organic textures. And I think that's hard to do well. And I thought that shot looked good.
Yeah. I think to Dan's earlier point, I think we can safely assume though we're not going to have galaxy spanning stakes because like if you look at least up until this point they're going after people that have jumped bail. Right. So it would be astonishing if they were like, oh yeah, also by the way, you have to, this thing that's going to completely change the way that we look at the universe. They went to the Bounty Hunters Guild.
And it doesn't fit the spaghetti western kind of vibe to go to Coruscant, right?
But it is at the same time it is crazy to think about canonical implications of the Yoda find, right? We're going to assume this is a Force sensitive child. I mean that's pretty safe to assume, right? I think we can all make that jump.
We would think so if only because of the Imperial scientists' interest in them.
Sure.
Yes.
Right? That whether this is like a blood relation of the character that we know or it's just another of their race, there's something about them that is special that the Empire is scared of, right? The Herzog character just is like, hey, if you murder that thing, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
Like they just want it out of the picture.
But the doctor was really intent on acquisition.
Well, they want to study it.
Yes.
But Imperial, wearing the classy Imperial medallion on a chain. He's just like, you know what? This is probably trouble.
Yeah.
I like that dynamic that they had there.
Yeah.
Two last things very quick. Do you think those taxi drivers heard that flute?
What was that? What was that whole taxi driver
the
flute
ferryman
thing?
concept was cool, but it's like, you got blowing wind on this ice planet. You can't even hear the roar of the engines of these vehicles, and he's just like,
Yeah.
I like the idea that they're like the taxi line. They're all just beyond sight.
It's like at the airport, right?
Yes.
You gotta
you can't have them wait at the curb because that's just not appropriate. You have to be 3 miles off because they can't be that far off. Those things don't move that fast.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, we finally got to see a Star Wars toilet. What'd you guys think of that?
Oh, exciting!
It looks
stuff.
like you kind of slouch on it. You don't sit or stand.
Well,
it's
maybe
designed to suit all aliens.
That's what I think. It's meant to. It's meant to be multi-purpose for any number of different alien species evacuation needs.
Yeah, exactly. If you're molting.
Let's score this sucker.
Oh no.
On GI scale?
On a GI scale of 1 to 10 with 0.25s.
Oh no. Why
Okay.
are we
What
doing this?
We can do that.
what do we score this? Let's start with Dan Tack since he seems confident.
8.5.
Wow, that does not fit any of your words.
What does good mean to you? I've been very clear.
No, he hates it.
Yeah, he was
You've heard
spitting
him.
venom until he got on the
said he
camera
hated
here.
it.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
Matt Miller.
With the caveat that this is episode 1, and I'm a little hesitant to score something that like the full picture is the full season.
We're just scoring the episode.
But just the episode, I'll give it. I'd actually be in almost exactly the same camp. I'd give it an 8.5. I think it's strong, but it's not the most original piece of storytelling ever.
Yeah.
And without, even though it is just a setup episode, without getting a little bit more insight into the character and having them speak a little bit more, it still needs to grow to be at its best.
Jeff Cork, let's say ours at the same time.
All right.
We're our souls are connected.
Okay.
Ready?
I may disappoint you a little bit, but here we go.
3, 2, 1, 9.
There you go.
See, we did it.
Exactly.
I loved it. Time
it's so
flew
much
by. It was a
fun.
little shorter than I thought.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, 38 minutes, something like that?
Yeah,
40 minutes?
counting credits, like 30, 37.
How awesome were those credits, though?
Yeah.
I love the credits art. I want some of those pieces for like my
They should
wall.
sell 'em, yeah.
Yeah.
But next episode is Friday, correct? And then one a week after that for, I don't remember how many episodes, 8?
To keep us
10?
all subscribed for...
Yeah. I was telling one of our other coworkers, Matthew Cotto, that I think the second episode is more important than the first one.
absolutely.
For what this series is going to be.
But for setting the tone for
Yeah.
Disney's new live action initiative for Star Wars and perhaps even Marvel,
Yeah.
the production values were very good.
Yep.
they led the charge in a nice way. I'm super excited about what comes next, not just for
Yeah.
Star Wars, but just that whole streaming channel in general.
Dan, would it make you happy? The next
boy.
episode, where we see the Mandalorian. He's flying along, establishing shot. And then
Okay.
it pans back. You see the inside of his ship.
Okay.
And there on his rack, he's got that Yoda thing frozen in carbonite. He's not harmed it, but he's just like, I don't have time for this right now. I love you, little
What
guy.
if he freezes it and puts it on the hood of his?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
No, I'm completely okay with the way the plot's going to go. I just
Yeah.
think it's when you do get anchored to that. There's only so many ways you can go. Like, I prefer the lone wolf doing lone wolf things. Now he's going to be very constricted.
It is
Right.
the storyline from here is very constrained. Just like narratively, what you can do with it is like you can almost chart what the next episodes are going to be. 2 and 3 are about the fallout. 4 and 5 are the Mandalorian having to deal with the aftermath of that and being kind of really screwed over because he made some decisions that like took him outside the norm and took him away from the bounty hunter code.
I can see
And
it
then-
right now. He's going to have a diatribe like I was a foundling once. I know
yes,
how it is.
exactly. And somewhere in that episode 4 and 5 arc where he's down in the dumps is also where we get the flashback that reveals his past. And then 7 and 8 are him like charging back to the front, winning the day, doing what he's got to do to like succeed. I mean, that's almost what you have to do. I would be quite surprised if that's not what the structure is. But just because it is kind of predictable that way,
They
I don't
already
think
shocked us
that's-
at the end, so
Yeah,
they
that's
could
fair.
see.
They could throw us a curveball, but I think with that established, the thing that they have at the very end of the episode, I think it kind of locks them into a narrative arc that they're obliged to follow to some degree.
They at least have to deliver answers on what's
Yes.
going on with the baby.
Is
Yeah.
there any possibility that flashback that he had of like getting massacred,
Yeah.
it's gonna pull back and it's him with just like a bit on his helmet, like a big smile, going, "I'm a Mandalorian."
1%.
1%.
It'd be kind of good though, right?
It would be.
That would be
It would be
great.
surprised.
I do want to see more of IG-11 too. I don't think we've seen the last.
Oh,
of
because
him.
they're like a
how are they
hive
gonna-
mind, aren't they?
There's no way
It's
that
like a collective.
yes, there's no way that character or even maybe some other IGs don't
Yeah.
come back. Like they got that.
That was shocking though. He took him down. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, okay, you're the ultimate badass.
Yeah.
You just took down my favorite character of the show.
Yeah.
But that's our chat, everyone, of the first episode of Mandalorian. Definitely check it out. Hope you like it more than Dan Tack did.
Yeah.
I think you will. I don't think anyone could hate anything that much. But
It's
thanks
shocking.
thanks for tuning in, and check out our other videos on YouTube and GameInformer.com. See ya.